If you're able to change the narrative that you tell yourself, you're able to change your life. Hi my lovelies, I'm Freya Faery and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk and share my story on how spirituality and witchcraft changed my mental health and saved my life. When I was a child, a very young child, I suffered through depression and anxiety. I was literally mute as a child, and then it followed me into my teens, and then once I hit 18, I was in a really bad car accident. It was very traumatic. I ended up flipping my car 3 times, and during that time, my whole world was crashing down. I wasn't in a good place with my home life and my mom. I had stopped talking to my dad, and I literally was just spiraling. This resulted in me abusing substances and doing a bunch of stuff literally to just numb the pain. I was in and out of therapy, and I was on and off different SSRIs. When I turned 22, after a 6-month bender, I decided I wanted to clean my life up a little bit. I was in a very toxic living situation, toxic relationship, a very abusive relationship as well, and both of them just kind of, it bounced off each other between my mental health and my home life and the relationship. It just wasn't good, and I was literally on a mental break. When I was going through therapy, I found it very hard to open up. I found that people, they were just judging me all the time, because I was dealing with substance abuse, and I was in a very toxic relationship, and I did have a lot of childhood wounds that I needed to work on. Not saying that therapy is a bad thing, therapy is a very good thing, but I just felt like I was constantly being judged of my life decisions and having a label being placed on me. Yes, I did abuse substances, but that wasn't my label. The reason why I abused substances is because I went through a very traumatic experience, and I had no family around me. And the people I had around me were people that were doing these substances, so I was like, well, let's just do it. And then it became a very unhealthy coping mechanism. But it was also a learned behavior that I learned from my family members, that I learned from my caregiver. So I decided to clean my life up, and that's when I had my first spiritual awakening in 2016. And my spiritual awakening was a little bit different than others. I dove into more of the realms of witchcraft. So I was into tarot and Ouija boards. I know people have their opinions on Ouija boards. And then also looking into psychics and learning psychic abilities. And that's when I stumbled upon the clairsenses and learning what they are, and learning of what my psychic abilities are, and learning to determine what's my energy and what someone else's energy is. And that's when it kind of clicked for me. It was realizing, like, hey, am I anxious because of me? Is this my energy of why I'm feeling anxious? Or am I feeling anxious because I'm taking on a whole lot of people's energies right now, and my body doesn't know what to do with it, so I'm just anxious. And that's when I started incorporating witchcraft and putting projections up and being more self-aware and deep diving into the realms of shadow work and everything. I'm literally so proud of myself because it takes a lot of work to change your perspective and to change the narrative of the story that you tell yourself. For a long time there, I would tell myself that I have an alcoholic mom, and I grew up poor, and my dad doesn't love me and doesn't want to be in my life, which therefore that trickled effect into all of my relationships because I had a father wound. And compared to now, where that narrative I was telling myself was completely, it wasn't false, but it wasn't what reality was. Looking back on my life over the past 10 years, I've literally done a complete 180. And I don't think I would have done this if I didn't have my spiritual awakening, and if I didn't go into the realms of witchcraft and learning certain things and learning aspects of myself. Incorporating certain aspects of witchcraft, such as every full moon and new moon, I will do a ritual. On full moons, it illuminates what's around and inside of us that needs healing. And I would take that opportunity to write down everything. And when I was actually in therapy, that's something that they told me to do, was write down your feelings. But I think taking it one step further and using alchemy has helped me tremendously. So I'm able to write down everything that's going on in my life, write down everything that I want to release and let go and set that intention, and then to light that on fire. It's so therapeutic. And then every new moon I would write down stuff that I want to, my goals and my aspirations and stuff that I want to accomplish. And I would also incorporate candle magic. So candle magic is using colors and candles to do a spell. So for instance, I would do a lot of banishing spells. So I would use a black candle. I would carve my initial in the black candle, carve banishing, and then I would carve anything that I want to banish. So negative self-talk, insecurity, negative self-worth, all that stuff I want to banish. And as you light the candle and as the candle melts, the spell is done. And then I would wait a couple days, and then I would incorporate alchemy into that. Everything is energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes form. So I would then take that energy that I would release, and I would bring it back into something positive. So if I'm banishing something of negative self-talk, self-worth, insecurity, I would then use candle magic for confidence. So then I would use a yellow candle, and then I would bring in more confidence in my life. Or if I wanted to release, like let's say a relationship, and I wanted to bring in more self-love, I would use a black candle to do the banishing spell, but then I would do another spell for self-love using a pink candle. Using the elements and incorporating them into your healing journey it's literally life-changing. Self-care and creating a ritual for a self-care bath, and that was kind of the start of what my craft looked like. I did a lot of self-care rituals and giving myself that love and that nourishment and connecting with my inner child and healing my inner child and reparenting my inner child and going through the motions of life when traumatic stuff happens, such as all my floods, to not resort back into old ways. In my spiritual awakening, I had dealt with a lot of floods. Now, when the big flood happened in 2019, I was actually seeing a practitioner, and she was doing Reiki on me, she was doing cord cutting on me, and I went to go see her, and I was telling her about my floods and everything like that, and then she was like, put that little bug in my ears, well, water is emotions. So what are you holding on to, and what are you carrying that is emotional? Because maybe your floods are trying to tell you something. And that stuck with me, because every time after that and I had a flood or something with that, I would do the inner work and be like, okay, what are my emotions? What's going on right now? And then I would take a look inside and I would do some shadow work. And learning and diving into the realms of what shadow work is and what witchcraft is and what spirituality is and everything. It's so much more healing and more of a introspective experience than what people let on. What has also changed my perspective in my life is learning that you hold cords of attachments to people even if they're not even in your life. And you can hold attachments to people, places, or things. So if you're leaving, let's say leaving a toxic job environment, cut the cords of that. If you're leaving a toxic partner, cut the cords with them. Even if you had a disagreement with a family member, release the cords, so then you're not spiritually being pulled back and attached to that situation and that person or that outcome. Even doing Reiki and learning what your chakras are and learning the signs and the symptoms of what an underbalanced and overbalanced chakra is. It's crazy to me thinking back on when I was 18 to 19 years old, and now I'm nearly 30, and to do a complete 180 on my mental health and to do a complete 180 on the narrative that I told myself. The story you tell yourself can change your life. So if you're telling yourself, well, I'm worthless, well, I can't get a job, or blah, 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 and you have such a negative outlook on life, you're going to attract more of those things into your life. The universe will continue to test you and test you and test you, because it's like, are you listening? Are you listening to what the universe is trying to tell you? And if people were more aware of certain situations and how trauma affects different people and how triggers come up, because a trigger is what's inside of you. It doesn't determine on what the other person says or have other people walk on eggshells because they're scared to trigger you. Your trigger is your own responsibility to heal. And that's just the truth. Let's face it, since the whole world shut down 4 years ago, mental health is at an all-time high. Trying to get help for your mental health it's nearly impossible for some people. And you shouldn't have to go to therapy, and you shouldn't have to pay extreme amounts of money to learn these things. To learn what childhood trauma does. To learn what your attachment style is. To learn what a mother wound is, a father wound is. To learn what trauma responses are. Why are we having to pay such large amounts for us to be taught these things? These things should literally be taught in schools. In comm class, I was taught about a little bit of mental health, but I wasn't taught about nearly the depths of what I learned when I was in therapy and what I've learned with doing my own shadow work. And I think spirituality and witchcraft and using alchemy to help you it's a beautiful thing. And I know there's going to be people that are like, witchcraft is the devil and you're worshiping the devil and blah 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 blah, but that is far from the truth. Witchcraft is in our day-to-day lives more than you think.